The royal hall of the Velnarin Combine shimmered with cold, crystalline light. At its center, upon a throne of living amethyst, sat the queen. Her form was elegance incarnate, with skin of brushed silver and eyes like pools of molten cobalt. She was a ruler of a star-spanning dynasty, a strategist who had quelled insurrections with a word. And she was, by the strictures of political necessity, newly married. Her consort stood beside her throne, a study in quiet contrast. He was a human, from a planet recently welcomed into the broader galactic community. His name was John. To the Velnarin court, he was an artifact of peaceful alliance, a symbol of the Queen's progressive vision. He was gentle where they were severe, soft-spoken where they were declamatory. He tended to the Terran botanical samples in the palace biodomes, read historical texts, and ask thoughtful questions about Velnarin art. The court saw a harmless scholar, a humble man content in his role as a political spouse. The Queen, in her private moments, found his calm demeanor a respite from the relentless pressure of rule. She believed she understood him, a man of peace, bound to her by duty and a growing, gentle affection. When the Glyth Raiders came, it was with the sudden, violent finality of a star going supernova. They were a scourge, a warrior species that fed on conquest and terror. Their jagged black ships pierced the Velnarin homeworld's defenses like needles through silk. The royal palace, a symbol of eternal power, became a target. The graceful spires shuddered under orbital bombardment. The air, once scented with ozone and perfume, filled with the acrid smell of plasma burns and fear. The Queen was in her strategy sanctum, holographic displays flashing with disaster. Her high commanders, their silvery forms rigid with shock, reported system after system falling offline. The Glyth landing craft were already disgorging their warriors in the lower vaults. "The Royal Guard will hold the inner gates," the Queen said, her voice steady despite the cold dread coiling in her heart. "We must evacuate, Your Majesty. Where is my consort?" she asked, a sudden, piercing worry cutting through her strategic calculations. "He was in the eastern biodome, my queen. The area is already overrun." A profound despair touched her then, not just for her kingdom, but for the quiet man who loved his plants. His fate would be swift and brutal. The Glyth showed no mercy. She armed herself with a ceremonial plasma lance, ready to sell her life as dearly as her title demanded. The thunder of battle drew closer. The elegant doors to the sanctum blew inward in a shower of crystallized alloy. There, framed against the smoke and chaos, stood a Glyth champion, a hulking mass of armored muscle and cruel intent. Its weapon hummed with killing energy. The royal guards moved to intercept, but they were diplomats and honor guards, not frontline soldiers. They fell swiftly. The champion leveled its weapon at the Queen. She raised her lance, her cobalt eyes blazing with defiant royalty. This was how it would end. Then, from a service conduit high in the wall, a figure dropped. It landed between the Queen and the Glyth with a soft, almost soundless impact. It was John. His simple tunic was smudged with soot. A small pruned bonsai tree from the biodome still clutched, absurdly, in one hand. "Step away, husband," the Queen whispered, her heart breaking. "This is not your place." John did not look at her. He looked at the Glyth champion, and the man she knew vanished. His posture, usually slightly stooped in deference, uncoiled into a state of lethal, relaxed readiness. The quiet warmth in his eyes was gone, replaced by a flat, assessing coldness she had never seen. He placed the bonsai carefully on the floor. The Glyth roared and charged, its massive blade sweeping down. John did not retreat. He moved. It was not the flashy, dramatic movement of Velnarin duelists, but something horrifyingly efficient. A slight shift of his torso let the blade pass by him, millimeters from his skin. His hand shot out, fingers striking like pistons at the junction of the Glyth's armor at its throat. There was a wet, crunching sound. The champion staggered. A gurgle escaping its vocal slits. John was already in motion. He seized the glyph's own weapon arm, using the creature's momentum to swing it around. A sharp twist, a precise kick to the back of a leg joint, and the 300-kilogram warrior crashed to the floor. John's foot came down on its weapon hand, bones snapping audibly. He then plucked the glyph's own blade from its grasp. With a motion that was neither angry nor hurried, he ended the threat. Silence filled the sanctum, broken only by the distant sounds of battle. John stood over the fallen champion, breathing evenly. He looked at the blood on his hands, then at the shocked queen. The coldness in his eyes receded, replaced by something wary, almost apologetic. The Eastern Biodome? The queen finally managed, her voice faint. The glyph there needed the garden more than I did, he said. His tone as soft as ever, but the words now carried a terrifying weight. He walked to a control console, his movements sure and swift. His fingers flew over the alien interface with an expertise that surpassed her own operators. He routed internal security feeds to the main display. The screens showed chaos. But within that chaos, a pattern emerged. Glyph squads were falling, not to the organized lines of the Royal Guard, but to a phantom. They were found in corridors, neutralized with brutal efficiency. Air vents hissed open and closed. Environmental controls in occupied rooms suddenly spiked to lethal extremes. It was a shadow war, and the shadow was winning. "What are you?" the queen asked, the question leaving her lips before she could stop it. "Your husband," he said, not turning from the console. "And a man who understands that some pests require more than a gentle word to remove." He continued to work. He isolated glyph communication channels, inserting a looping, false all-clear signal. He pinpointed the location of their command node in the palace's central reactor spire. He spoke as he worked, his plan unfolding with chilling clarity. Their command is here. They are coordinated but rigid. They expect a stand-up fight or panic. They do not expect the walls themselves to fight back. He turned to the remaining guards. "Seal the sanctum. Protect your queen." His gaze finally settled fully on her. The humble man was a mask, and behind it was a commander, a weapon of stunning precision. "I have to go to the reactor spire. I can end this, but I must go alone." "That is suicide," one of the commanders protested. John's lips twitched in a ghost of a smile. "No, it's a surgical incision." He picked up a discarded sidearm, checked its power cell with a familiar glance, and selected 2 small plasma charges from a guard's belt. He moved towards the shattered doorway. "Wait," the queen commanded. She rose from her throne. Her regal bearing returned, but now layered with a storm of new understanding. "Who are you, truly?" He paused. "On my world, before we joined the community, we had a long, dark time. We called it our unquiet centuries. I was a peacekeeper in that time. My job was to end conflicts before they could become wars. Sometimes that meant being quieter than a diplomat." He met her gaze. "I retired when we found the stars. I wanted to tend gardens. I still do. But today, the garden is infested." Then he was gone, slipping into the smoky hallway like a ghost. The queen watched the security feeds, her heart pounding not just with fear, but with a terrifying, exhilarating awe. She saw glimpses. A glyph sentry collapsing, a figure blurring past. A control panel erupting in sparks, sealing a squad in a decontamination chamber. He moved through her palace, a place he had known for mere months, with more terrifying intimacy than her own guards. He used service tunnels, climate control ducts, and structural gaps she never knew existed. He was not a soldier in an army. He was a predator in its native habitat. The feed for the reactor spire was offline. Minutes stretched like lifetimes. Then, the main displays in the sanctum flickered. The chaotic glyph battle chatter ceased. A moment later, a new clean signal filled the comms. It was John's voice, slightly breathless but steady. Reactor spire is secure. Command node is offline. Their fleet coordination is breaking. Time for your forces to counter. The Queen did not hesitate. She barked orders to her commanders, who now moved with reinvigorated purpose. The tide of battle turned within the hour. Leaderless and confused, the glyph raiders were pushed back. Then routed. It was deep into the planet's artificial night when the palace was fully secured. The Queen stood on a scarred balcony, looking at the damaged city below. She heard a step behind her. John stood there. He had cleaned up, wearing a fresh, simple tunic. He held 2 cups of steaming tea from the Terran leaves he favored. He offered one to her. She took it, studying his face. The lines of it were the same, yet utterly different. The kindness was still there, but she now saw the iron will beneath it. The humility was not false, but it was a choice. A discipline worn over a core of immense and formidable capability. "You believed you married a humble man," he said quietly, staring into his tea. "I did," she said, "and I was not wrong. But I did not understand what true humility was. It is not weakness. It is strength so absolute it does not need to announce itself." She stepped closer. "My court saw a scholar. I saw a gentle soul. They were both true. But they were not all. Does it frighten you?" He asked, the question genuine. She considered the man who had dropped the galaxies, worth of violence upon her enemies, and then brought her tea. She thought of the precision, the control, the sheer will they could switch from.